so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong, and I learned how to get along, and so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Oh, now go, walk out the door, just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye? You think I'd crumble? You think I'd lay down and die? Oh no, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll be alive. I've got all
What's going on, everybody? I'm finally back with a beautiful New York photographic story, and it's one that I'm incredibly excited to tell you about. So last year I attended this breaking event in Chinatown super last minute, and the only reason I knew about it was through my friend G Moon, and he DM'd me knowing that I would enjoy photographing something like this in New York. Now, it did show some of these photos that I made last year in a compilation type video. You could check the link out right here. So the breakdancing scene in New York has a very rich history, and it probably dates way back into the 70s, around the birth of hip-hop, so probably around 1973. And the scene and the energy and the people that dancing draws in, especially in the 5 boroughs, is iconic in street and documentary photography. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 3 main things. Number 1 being where I went and how I went about taking these photos. Number 2 are the difficulties and the things that I know that I can improve on from the work that I created. And number 3, my ultimate goal that is sort of inspired by something like this. So the name of the event that I went to last year was called Showdown Chinatown, and that was the first iteration of that event. The turnout was pretty good in terms of the amount of competitors and dancers that came out, and also the type of crowd that it drew in. And I could vividly remember how hot it was that day last year. It was so hot that the concrete actually burned the skin off of my knees when I kneeled down too long. So some of these dancers had like these weird looking rug type burns on their elbows, on their arms, or whatever, and it was only because the concrete was that hot. When Showdown announced that they were coming back this year, I knew I had to attend again to improve upon the work that I already made from 2024. And some of the things that I knew I had to improve on was 1, I had to shoot in color film, and I know if you follow my channel for a while, that's kind of like unusual for me to say. So in terms of gear, I only used 35mm film for this, even though I had a temptation to shoot medium format. So my small setup was a Leica M6 and my trusty 28mm Summicron and my very versatile 16-21 Wide Angle Tri-Elmar. I did bring my flash and my cord with me for off-camera flash, but I didn't use it for this first event, so I'm going to talk more about that in the other locations that I went to after this one.
If you rush in, at your door when we address them, we gon' bless them. Tried to bring them, shoulda left them. Learn my lesson. Poker faces keep them guessing. No expression. Ice dressing on my chest and leave impression. What's a testarossa if you don't test them? Ain't your bitch unless you joystick and dress them. My presence, your pleasure. Peasants, he's pressure. I've been knee deep, key deep. We in ZZ's, me and Lee. Get you fronted for the summer so easy. The snow alone, fill up a mobile home. My nigga's name ring like mobile phones and no one's home. White back-to-back rolls at my gates. White slave master souls in my safe. White python Manolo is the taste. She want a Mike Tyson blow to the face. Twist and turn, these guns blitz and burn. Too many flip and turn, had to get rich to learn.
The reason why I wanted to emphasize using color film more this time around has less to do with the colors itself, although they are beautiful, but more so establishing and having more depth in the scenes that I'm photographing. So in photography, right off the bat, if we're talking about depth, you would probably associate that with depth of field. Like if you shot at f1.4, you want that blurriness in the background and the sharpness of the subject in the foreground. That's typically what we think about in depth. And that is correct. That is in no way wrong, but there are other definitions in how to achieve that feeling or that concept of depth. Another example of achieving depth, which would support my point here, is to use colors to separate all the subjects and the backgrounds from each other. I think the reason why some black and white photos may seem a bit chaotic is because it's hard to visually break the photo down into its components. Color makes that process for the viewer a lot easier because our brains can easily digest the photo better because there's color contrast to help someone say, hey, that's the hero of the shot and that's the background and that's whatever, and your brain can just kind of separate everything from there. But obviously that's not to say that it works all the time. Some color photos look too tremendously overwhelming, and a black and white photo could help separate that for the viewer. Shout out to Ken, who's the organizer of Showdown Chinatown, and everybody else who got involved to throw on a big event for the community of breakers and rockers and everybody who's just a fan of hip-hop culture and breakdancing.
I reminisce. Yeah. I reminisce for a spell, or shall I say think back 22 years ago to keep it on track. The birth of a child on the 8th of October. A toast, but my granddaddy came sober. Count all the fingers and the toes, now I suppose you hope the little black...
Not long after Showdown, I went to a 2-day competition up in the Bronx to be part of the mighty Zulu Kings and Queens anniversary event. So some quick history, the mighty Zulu Kings was one of the first organized hip-hop dance crews, again around the birth of hip-hop in 1973. They were born out of the Bronx, and they are nationally and even internationally recognized as one of the most famous legacy groups of the culture. Now, I don't know the full story of this group, but I do know that some of their members rock a custom vest with MZK patches to kind of signify their alliance, and definitely a skill level that is required to be part of a group like MZK. So day one of the comp was held in Bronxlandia, which was such a badass location with its underground vibes, DJs on the stage in the back while multiple ciphers go on at the same time. But being that it was in a dark warehouse made it very difficult to photograph, so that's where my flash came in. Usually I would mount my flash on the camera and just have that onboard flash look, but this one I had to do off camera to not only play with directional lighting, but also to have the ceiling be a part of the canvas. So I love enclosed spaces like this because I could start to play with shadows with this directional light that I can like flash around. The shadows being cast up on the ceiling is such a vibe to, yes, add depth and dimension to my photos, but these photos also feel like they harken back to the culture of breaking and hip-hop dancing, where sometimes it would be hosted in basements, houses, or warehouses like this, and photographers back then had no choice but to use strong flashes to light the scene. Eventually the warehouse doors were opened up to let the light in, which was greatly appreciated for my dumb film photography ass, and the light that came in was so rich and directional as it bounced off the floor and into different corners of the room. This isn't even a photo I got, but this slow-mo clip that I got of this guy doing a headspin was so sick because of how his white t-shirt was bouncing the sunlight in the directions that he was spinning in, and you could see it light up the crowd, and that was so sick.
My boy unless he's taking over. I said pop maybe when you're older. We laughed all night about the hookers at the party. My old man standing yelling, good God almighty. Use your condom, take sips of the brew. When they reminisce over you, for real. For real, baby. Like that. We for real. Coming at you.
Light did dwindle pretty fast in this setting, so I had to resort to slower shutter speeds, shallower depth of field, and a freaking prayer because sometimes I would have to lift my camera over my head to get over the crowd, and I don't know what I'm actually aiming at, so I was just hoping that it was all gonna work out. With the lighting being as tough as it was in this first spot, it was only going to get harder at the next one where they were holding the finals.
Word up, son. Word.
Yeah. To all the killers and the $100 billers. For real, niggas who ain't got no feelings. Check it out now. I got you stuck off the realness. We be the infamous, you heard of us. Official Queensbridge murderers. The mob comes equipped for warfare. Beware of my crime family who got enough shots to share for all those who wanna profile and pose. Rock you in your face, stab your brain with your nose bone. You all alone in these streets, cousin. Every man for theyself in his land, we be gunning. And keep them shook crews running like they supposed to. They come around, but they never never come close to. I can see it inside your face, you're in the wrong place.
There were more opportunities to get up close and personal with the flash because there were more electric and energetic ciphers that just randomly popped up. And being in that mix with such high energy was incredibly fun because everyone just got so into calling each other out and having impromptu battles. And there were also nice moments where the vets invited the kids to come out and have a go at taking center stage in front of all these people, which was so nice, and I got some solid photos of that too. Overall, the energy was insane at the MZK anniversary event, and there was so much talent from what I can tell. So shout out to Ness and the mighty Zulu Kings and everybody else who got involved with throwing on a good event. So let's talk about some of the difficulties that I ran into and things that I know that I should improve on. Breakdancing can be very fast moving, and just like all sports, you have to know when to photograph the right moment. And also, dancing is an art form. There are reasons why breakers and rockers face a certain way when they're performing and battling. Sometimes they face the judges, and other times it's the opponent across from them. It's a show, and because it's a show, the photographer should place themselves and know when to photograph those decisive moments. And sometimes the decisive moments of these dancers is getting the right shape when you click the shutter, because that could sometimes make or break the photo. If I get it wrong, it just looks like the person fell on the ground or is just lying there, when in real life they were spinning or setting up for their move or just finished a punchline and I missed it. Not only is the shape important, but also the angle at which I shoot it from. Some scenes are shot way better from above at a really high angle so that you can see the whole body of the dancer when they're either spinning on the ground or when they're just doing something at full extension but low onto the ground. Sometimes it's better at a lower angle or near the ground to get a perspective of their move if they were doing a freeze and their head is on the ground, or if they're jumping up in the air and you want to show that in respect to the crowd. So there's those things and all these other things that I'm processing and keeping in mind while simultaneously setting myself up and positioning and make sure my focus is right, my setting is right, and waiting for those decisive moments of these dancers so that I can get the right moment. So it's just a lot at the same time. And that's why being acquainted in any sport that you photograph is very important, because sometimes you have that knowledge of knowing what's going to come next. When I'm listening to the music that the DJ is putting on, I can tell that there are pockets and moments where a punchline could happen, and I'm waiting for those moments, right? Like I'm positioning my body and my camera at the right moments, but sometimes I just completely get it wrong. But other times I get it completely right. So I already talked a little bit about depth in this video in terms of using color to establish that effect, but another way I feel like I can improve on this is by adding more layers to the photos with more foreground elements. There's a couple photos I have where that was the case, and it just adds this dimensionality to the frame, but there's a lot that I've taken that still fall flat. And I can acknowledge that in anything, in photography or in any art form, you can't just spam the same thing for the sake of using it. Like I can't just add foreground elements for the sake of having it there. So there's always a time and place, and it should feel intentional for that. But I know that with the type of body of work that I want to create around the subject material, I am missing a little bit of that depth to my personal liking. And the last difficulty I want to talk about kind of goes to that famous quote, which is a bad craftsman blames his tools. And I'm gonna blame my lens, because that 16-21 Tri-Elmar, as versatile and useful as that lens is, that f4 aperture is too slow when I'm inside. It's great when I'm outside because there's so much available light, and at f4 at that wide focal length, you pretty much get everything, even if you're not that good at zone focusing. However, when you're in a dark warehouse, it's basically impossible to use it, and it's my widest lens that I have. Maybe next time I will have to bring an f1.4, maybe 21 mil, or wider than that if I could find it cheap, because that gets more expensive the wider the lens is and the faster it has to be. But sometimes you just can't win in this film game. Sometimes you just have to sit there and be like, well, I missed that. And I can't use flash all the time because it's inherently a very intrusive action. And before we get into this final act of the video, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace provides some of the industry leading tools for making a portfolio for photographers like us who want to be taken seriously. I recently renovated my website to be more focused on my documentary work. Squarespace allows a lot of customizability, from their award-winning templates to something as simple as changing the background to black. I love how my website feels more mature, and if I have any questions or problems, I know I can contact the 24/7 customer service to get myself squared away. You can start a free trial today at squarespace.com/ChrisChew. Use my code ChrisChew at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So one of the goals that I have when I photograph things like this, and the reason why I work so hard for it, is not necessarily to make a good YouTube video, which you know, I still have fun doing. I love sharing what I'm making with all of you who are watching and supporting. Thank you so much for all of your support. But one of the main reasons why I critique myself so much, why I am so hard on myself, and why I try so hard to make good photos is because I want to pursue greatness in this craft. I want to be one of the greats that I've observed and studied from for so long. And, you know, being in New York, right? Like, I love being here. I'm just a fan of everything that the city is and what it creates and the people that live here and what they do and what they're passionate about. I just love having the opportunity to be around that because I have a camera, and it's like really fun to be in the fold of all of this, right? And I've seen so much legendary work. Like, if you look up Martha Cooper has some of the greatest breakdancing photos of all time here in New York. And that impactful emotional effect that her work and other great photographers' work has had on me, like, I want that quality in my work. That's why I'm so passionate about getting better all the time whenever I show up to these things. Like, I'm not just showing up with a camera and just doing this for fun. Like, yes, I am having fun while doing it. I want to create a body of work that stands the test of time and that could maybe one day have the honor of being archived in the documentation and the history of this great city. It's just a privilege to participate in the culture and be a part of this art form with my peers and my contemporaries, and to be inspired and admire their work and just be like, wow, I can't believe I can play with these guys and that I could run this race with all of these talented individuals, photographers, artists, dancers, and whatnot. Like, it's just like, wow, it's so cool to be here, and I'm going to work just as hard as them because they inspire me to work hard. And yeah, so I love critiquing myself and I love critiquing my work because I want it to be better and better all the time, because I have this belief in myself, like in my head and in my heart, that I can be great one day. And I'm not saying this so that I could get my flowers now and get my honors now from all of you guys, but I'm working every day and every month and every year to become more of a man that is deserving of those honors. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in that next video. Peace.